Welcome to this week's marketing show. We are honored to have Adrien Plavsic on the show with us today. Adrien had an illustrious professional hockey career: St. Louis Blues, Vancouver Canucks, Tampa Bay Lightning, Anaheim Mighty Ducks, Canadian Olympic team, yada, yada, yada.
Oh, hey, hold on, Melissa. Adrien, she's missing one team, but that's University of New Hampshire Wildcats.
Bing, bing, bang. I was just about to say that. So Rick and Adrien, you guys know each other. You went to the same university, UNH. You were a freshman, Adrien. From what I understand, Rick, you were a senior. Adrien, any good stories?
Yeah, I was there 1 year. So I was like really intimidated, 17-year-old kid who went to French school in Montreal, Quebec. And I have a scholarship at UNH, and I'm like really a little bit shy as well. So I come in and then I meet Rick for the first time, big, husky guy, big shoulders, really intimidating, deep voice. And I was just kind of trying to find my place, but was really a bunch of great guys that we had on the team. And Rick made me feel really at home. So helped my transition from French, speaking French and going to French school to English university a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And so, Melissa, so Adrien comes in, he's a hockey phenom coming out of Montreal, young guy. And, Adrien, you went on, we only played 1 year together, and we won't review our stats that 1 year, but you
went on to play. Should we?
Well, you played over 20 years in the National Hockey League. You many years over in the European professional ranks, and you and I connected recently, believe it or not, on LinkedIn, and started some conversations. And I think a lot of business people, I'll use the term imposter syndrome, where we get things in our head. Mm-hmm. And Adrien, I was hoping you today could talk to the folks, like from a professional athlete's perspective, what you went through maybe as an athlete, maybe a couple stories, how, because you were super talented, and really mind over matter sometimes doesn't work for everybody. But anyway, I just wanted to get your coaching on what you think others should do, because you're doing that professionally right now.
Yeah, I think, the things that we struggle with, we naturally gravitate to. So for me, I think I had trouble with anxiety when I played. So I got really, really nervous before games. And I remember 1 year in the playoffs when I came back from the Olympics in 1992. And the pace was so good at the Olympic Games that I got to the NHL and I thought the game was slow compared to the Olympics. And so I got a spot playing, they put me in because I played really well the last 16 games. And we got into the playoffs. And I remember being in Edmonton, and I couldn't sleep. I was so wired. I was so... I had a hard time getting my nervous system to, regulate my nervous system and get my nerves under control. So I played that whole playoffs like with this, like in this high and this adrenaline, which I think is impossible to sustain. So, throughout my career, I looked for things to help me focus better, to help me regulate my nervous system better. And, over time, you just figure out by experience, you see what works and what doesn't. And you're, always trying to become the best version of yourself, because as you're chasing success, we all, chase and want to have success in our lives. We want to experience what we're doing. I think that mix between, reaching and going, reaching our goals and having success, we want to be in the moment. And that's something I really struggled with. So that's why I'm in the coaching industry right now. And I really want to, become a life coach where I help people with that, because I think mental health is, people struggle with it. And you can see that. So, I learned a lot of things through my career and continue to learn as a 52-year-old.
Hey, you're looking good, buddy.
Thanks.
When we spoke prior to this, and thanks for coming on and sharing, by the way, because I think you're going to help so many young and mature athletes. We look at people that play professional sports or even professional business people, and we just assume they have it all together because they've made it to that level. But, with over 20 years in the National Hockey League, like, you would have seen your mix of characters and people that you'd think from the outside. And what I wanted you to talk about today was, what you're doing and maybe some best practices you were exposed to, because you made a comment to me the other day. You said, Rick, people can't perform at their best if they're in constant fear of a mistake. And that really rung my bell. It's so true, because we face it in business all the time. Believe it to achieve it. You can say it, but it's another thing to actually, have that confidence. So if you're a viewer or listener right now, I had asked Adrien to come on and share some techniques that he was exposed to as a pro athlete, and or things that best practices that if you wrestle with, this type of challenge, that maybe you can try. Because I highly recommend you, if people aren't following you on LinkedIn, I think the content you're posting on there is very educational. You're keeping it real, and I just think you're doing great in this phase of your career. But anyway, so what would you suggest for those that are in fear in business or in sport?
Yeah, I think there's two things. Like you say, willpower can only get you to a certain place. So I think what's in our mind and what we want, is one thing, but then what's in our body and the feelings and the emotions, especially the feelings, because we all, from a young age, we actually adapt, based on our environment, and we live experiences and we carry these memories. And I think they're stored in our body. Actually, I know from, listening to research, and I think the body is really, it's so intelligent. And so for me, the biggest thing is when I started playing, and I said I got anxious, and my body couldn't relax, even though I wanted to. I go, man, I'm exactly where I want to be. I'm playing in the NHL in front of 20,000 people. It can't get better than this. So I think one of the biggest things that I learned, and I started, fairly young, is breathing. Breathing is an amazing way to impact your nervous system. And so learning to breathe efficiently, and it's really a practice, because when you learn to breathe, I think what I talked about is nasal breathing. I think we're really meant to breathe through our noses, and research kind of shows that. And so when you're relaxed, you're just breathing naturally, efficiently, and you're also not breathing that much, because you're so relaxed. And for sure, you get into a game, and so the adrenaline will go high. But if you're in survival mode, it'll get too high, and you'll start making bad decisions. So somewhere you got to learn to regulate your nervous system. And I think my main tool is just learning to breathe. And when I get, stressed out, or I start overthinking, I just kind of connect to my breathing. And I've done it so many times that now I'm very aware of it and very conscious. And so I breathe deeply through my nose, and I think about really focused on the exhale, because the exhale is just like about, okay, everything's okay, you're safe, this is cool, and you got it. So I think just focusing on my breath is probably the thing I go to, right off the bat.
Cool. You, as I said before, you've been exposed to a lot of best practices and coaching, and so breathing, absolutely. I know before I speak, sometimes, someone's introducing you, or that you're the next speaker at a conference, and you've got to, I don't know if I'm using the same breathing techniques, but you got to get down into that calm level before you begin. Otherwise, you can never catch up once you get going. I've found myself, but excellent point. What else has worked for you, or you suggest, Adrien?
I think reframing, the situation, because when I got anxious, it would be like you're kind of projecting something in the future, something that might go wrong in the future. So the between anxiety and excitement, it's almost the same feeling. I think it's just your interpretation of what's going on and what you think the outcome will be, in the end. So if you think, wow, I have something to lose here, you're going to be reserved, you're going to kind of hold back. But if you think there's an opportunity, and you think, wow, this is a challenge, you're going to show up a lot differently. So I think just reframing that over and over and telling yourself, this is an opportunity. I can build courage in this situation. I can develop myself. I can grow. I think those things, you keep repeating that and you keep telling yourself. And I think over time, I start believing that all these things, in the past, my mouth would get dry and I would get nervous. And then all of a sudden, through my own conditioning, because over time, you're kind of in charge. You get to decide how you're going to interpret things. And so you're conditioning yourself. And sometimes conditioning takes a little bit of time. But I always think we're always conditioning ourselves to see the world a certain way, see others and see ourselves a certain way. So that would be, my second tip, is just reframing situations so it works in your favor, so you can grow from it and you can step in and play your best game at that moment.
So, you're Melissa, we got an Olympian athlete here, 20 plus year NHLer. So Adrien, talk to us in hockey terms about what reframing would be, if that's okay. Like, give me an example. Are you envisioning, hey, puck's going to come around the boards, or are you envisioning a play, or the way we're going to set up on the power play? Like, what would be an example of, just a simple example of reframing so your mind is ready or positive entering that state?
Yeah, so I would say, if you had a tough shift or you made a mistake, you come back to the bench, you take a couple breaths and you say, hey, I'm going to be really assertive, aggressive on the puck. I'm going to, challenge, I'm going to be aggressive, get pucks to the net, keep the play, keep the game simple. But you're going to go and you're going to be aggressive and assertive, instead of naturally when you make a mistake, you want to play it safe, but you reframe it and you say, okay, this is my learning. If I come back with a strong shift, you're teaching yourself that after a mistake, you're even more engaged. And so I think you can, teach yourself. I have a great example, which is in Switzerland. When I struggled in the finals, we were in game 6 and Zurich had not won in 39 years. And so it was a huge game, 15,000 people. And we played our rivals, Lugano, which is the Italian part of Switzerland. We were the German part. And I was nervous. I felt like I wasn't playing my best game. I kept coming back to the bench and saying, I got to make a difference. I got to make a difference. And I kept saying that because I tried to get my mind to focus on one specific thing. So what happened is the game was tied 3-3, 10 seconds to go. And we pick off the puck and there's a big gaping hole at the blue line. And I walk in and I get a pass and I score the winning goal. So that was my moment of glory, individual moment. But I go, wow, this stuff works, So even though I was in survival most of the game, I ended up, kind of just battling through it. And I used, my affirmations and just the way I spoke to myself in a positive way. And, that was a defining moment in Zurich. But for me, just kind of showed me that we're kind of always talking to ourselves by what we think, what we say to ourselves. So just be aware and conscious of what the language, what you're saying to yourself, because your mind is always listening.
Okay, so Adrien, we talked about breathing properly, reframing, great stories. What else do you think would help someone today that's wrestling with, really achieving their personal potential?
Directly, first thing that comes to mind is what you eat. What you eat is really important because food has energy. So I'm a big believer. Like, I experimented with all kinds of different things. I fasted, but I also, try to eat a whole, like a diet with basically foods that are alive, raw foods and different things. So I think for me, it's really important to have nutrient-rich and dense foods, because today everything is really fast. Everybody eats fast, they're on the go. But I think, really taking care of your energy and the way you feel food impacts that, so much. It impacts how much energy you have, how well you sleep. So that's something you can definitely control. So really making sure that you eat enough, veggies, and you eat you eat foods where you're not eating a lot of fast carbs and things that basically give you, peak your insulin, and then all of a sudden you have a drop. So I think eating really well and being mindful that you're taking care of your diet, and doesn't mean once in a while, you can, get out of hand. But I think, the foundation has to be there. And I think you'll see that that's going to affect your mood, the way you feel, and your energy levels. So that's definitely something.
Absolutely. I think, we perform better, we feel better. And, when you're eating well, I think it's, I hired a guy to kind of coach me on that. He was saying 80% of the way we feel is often what we eat, not so much always the exercise. But anyway, good point. So breathing right, reframing, eating properly. What else are you thinking would help some people?
Well, I want to add to that water. Water's an easy way, like just making sure you drink and you consume enough, water. That's really important. I think for me, what helped me is because I struggled with anxiety, so early on. I started reading, and I got into meditation, fairly young. And so meditation is, it's kind of getting popular in the mainstream. And it's really about just being able to, be grounded. And, not every day we wake up and we feel great. So when you meditate after a little while, you kind of develop this skill, which I call the observer. So imagine you're looking at yourself, a little bit unattached. So I don't mean detached in a good way. And so you might be experiencing, stress, or, someone said something and they triggered you. And so when you, practice just breathing and being in a state of stillness, that's what meditation is. And you're kind of observing body sensations. You kind of develop the skill of being able to observe yourself. And so from this place, I think you're more empowered because you're not reacting to whatever the initial stimulus is. So it could be traffic, it could be whatever. And Viktor Frankl, who was in the Holocaust, he wrote The Search for Meaning, which is an amazing book. He says between the stimulus and your reaction, there's a space. And if you can you can expand that space and bring stillness, your decisions you'll be able to make more empowered decisions. And so it'll be more of a response versus a reaction. And when people are stressed out, and there's a lot on their plate, and, they tend to be reactive versus responsive. So I think that's definitely something is, practice, learn to spend a little bit of time. It could be in nature, be by yourself without, anything going on. Just learn to be quiet and, just connect with yourself. And I think that can help you in that process of developing that ability to observe what's going on within you without reacting.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. I think, in North America, we're so go, go, go. Like the harder you go, the longer you go, the better. And I think a lot of us we're just frying ourselves, and we can't be creative. We can't be at our maximum potential. And I grew up in the country, and it's funny how sometimes I'll get out of the city and go back where I grew up. Even if it's for a weekend away, you come back, you feel better in the morning, go for a walk. I just don't think not enough people do that in their daily business cycle, never mind athletes. Great tips. What else are you thinking? Anything else there?
What I like to do is like this morning, what I did is, I had some friends and they asked me to give them a yoga session. So we went, I had them do a little bit of breathing, and I do, a little bit of yoga. And then with a friend of mine, we went into the lake, which was, I'd say 10 degrees. what I like to do is expose myself to stressors. And so I find we're able to adapt. And so putting ourselves in intentional situations where our body has to adapt. And what I find with cold is, well, it's very, it hits you. So you got to manage your state. You got to manage your breathing. So I like to do those things intentionally. I'll put myself in situations where I'll have to adapt and, learn to, manage my state when things are challenging. And so that's one of the things, like what I did this morning. And I try to do that once or twice a week. And I love it because I can see my body adapting, and my body tends to now all of a sudden I'm less cold. My body, and I get less sick. So there's definitely a response. My immune system is building itself up as well.
It's funny, you're talking 10 degrees Celsius, by the way, just for those Fahrenheit people.
Okay.
I remember old school days, Adrien, you'd come off the ice and they'd have big buckets of ice that we'd jump in, but I don't know if that's the same thing you're talking about, but pushing your body basically.
Sure.
You also told me that one of your daily rituals is to make sure you break a sweat every day in the morning. I thought that was kind of, just from our conversations prior to this, I thought that was interesting because I don't think enough people, do that just to get your engine fired up and going for the day. A lot of us, we shower, we put on our dress outfit or whatever it is, and away we go. And our body's still behind us, right? Still horizontal in bed, probably. But anyway, I thought that was a good principle you mentioned as well.
Yeah, I do that. I call it like a priming, and I think Tony Robbins uses the term. And for me, it's like you're getting yourself ready for the day. So you're being really intentional. And there's actually a thing called the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is a molecule that when you sweat, it's activated, and it's based with neuroplasticity. So it allows you, you're more open, your brain is more open, neural pathways are more open to change. So it's called neuroplasticity. So sweating first thing in the morning, like all of a sudden, you've woken up and you're a little bit sluggish, bang, 20 minutes, I get a sweat going. I don't feel the same way as when I got up. And so right off the bat, I've influenced my state, and I've basically generated energy, from just moving. And once you get into that habit of doing it, I think it's 66 days, they say, before a habit becomes, natural. Yep. So what do they say? It's really hard in the beginning, messy in the middle, and then it's like amazing at the end. Once you get it, it becomes natural. And now I start, feeling the effects. It's like, I got to get up, get moving. And, I'm telling my body, my nervous system, it's time to get going. And you're just sharper, and you get your day going much quicker. So that's definitely like just priming yourself. And then you can journal as well, write down, how do you want to go about your day? What do you want to experience? How do you want to show up in your energy? And I wish I would have learned this, when I was a lot younger, because I think it would have served me. I would have, gone about it a whole lot differently. But I guess that's experience, huh? Yeah. We gain experience as we go. Yeah, exactly. Wisdom.
You would have been more awake at some of those classes at UNH. Hey, Adrien, you shared a lot of really unique insights today. I don't think are common to everybody. And I like the way you dance between some are mental state and some are physical. If you're okay, maybe let's let people know quickly what you're doing right now. I mean, I know you're involved in coaching over there, but you're starting your own business, which I think is awesome to help so many others.
Yeah. That's what I'm kind of passionate about. Is I think as a hockey player, I didn't reach, I got to, the top level, but I still think I didn't reach my full potential. And now I think this becoming an entrepreneur is like, wow, you have to develop. I got to develop resources. I got to be in charge of my own state. So that's what I'm basically focused on, is just, starting my coaching business, my life coaching business. And I call it Beyond Performance. So it's really about, self-mastery and mastering your inner game and the way you feel and your energy. And when you get that down, all of a sudden everything kind of becomes a little bit more simpler and easier. And that's what I want to do. So I'm posting, and I'm putting content out and bringing value to people and connecting, which is not natural to me, but I think that's my challenge, and I know that I got to step in there. So that's my goal. And I'm coaching hockey right now, which is short term for now, but definitely want to get into this life coaching full term, and it's really a challenge for me. So,
well, I know you're always up for that, and you've proved you've overcome things big time in the past. I just want to say congratulations on what you've accomplished since we played together at UNH, and it's great to see you give back, not just to the game, but to people who, I remember you as a shyer kind of young guy, and just an awesome person. And I think there's a lot of awesome athletes or business people that would benefit from what you shared today. And I'm really excited about you moving ahead, Adrien, in this next phase, because you got so much to give and so many great stories you could share with people that we unfortunately didn't have a chance to cover today. But anyway, thanks so much for coming on today. I know Melissa probably wants to ask, where do people get a hold of you? Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned your posts and getting out there, Adrien, and I follow you on LinkedIn, and you've got some great content. So maybe tell the folks here where they can find you and how to reach you.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is the best place to reach me. I'm also on Instagram, so they can DM me at BP, so Beyond Performance, Master Your Life. That's what I go under. And as well, my email is I just put it up, apbeyondperformance .coach. So so that's where they can reach me, but I can send that to you, and if anybody wants to reach out. But hey, it's a pleasure, Rick. Was really nice. I said you were, I remember you as the great leader there, and when you spoke, everybody listened. So it's a pleasure reconnecting with you once again.
You too, buddy. Great to see you, and thanks again for joining us today on this marketing show. Thank you so much, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Thanks, Rick.